Travis Totz, welcome to Breakdown.
Matt Medeiros, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
I've been employed for 3 years. We've been publishing this podcast for 3 years. This is the first time you've been on?
I think it is, actually, isn't it?
It must be my annual review coming up.
So, Matt, we need to talk about. It's funny you mention that. We have been at this podcast now for 3 years, and I haven't been on yet.
You and I just co-hosted a webinar. We talked about the Labs project, the upcoming AI stuff we have coming into Gravity Forms. We are going to talk about that stuff today. But you and I are as old as the trees in the WordPress community. We've been here for a while. What don't folks know about you and your journey in WordPress? Where did you start, and how did you end up here at Gravity Forms?
Yeah. I feel like I tell this story a lot, but it's probably just on calls and meet and greet calls with other WordPress folks. But I started with WordPress at a small agency when I was still in college, believe it or not. And I think we started using WordPress at version 3. So it's been a long time. And we were really just looking for a CMS alternative to static built websites at that point. We were building, HTML websites and Dreamweaver, and customers wanted updates. And, the mom and pop agency I was working at was like, well, let's try to find a way that they can do this themselves. And obviously the rest is history, I guess, as it relates to WordPress and how they kind of became, for a lot of agencies, especially small agencies, a de facto solution for just that. From there, I really delved deeper into WordPress after doing forum support for different WordPress theme shops, which gave me, I think, just the experience of like digging into customer issues and what people were running into when using WordPress themes and WordPress in general, and just deepened that knowledge and passion, I think, for the platform and for continuing to do it, as you said, as old as the trees now, from then until now, which has been obviously a fun ride. And then into agency work, and it was all WordPress for the most part. And then of course to Rocket Genius, on the product side. So it's been fun. It's been a wild ride.
Not to add more pressure to you, but we are accidentally live on the Gravity Forms YouTube page. I forgot to uncheck that when I hit record from the webinar that we just talked about. You've seen a lot in the WordPress space. You and I have both seen a lot. And I'm sure folks listening to this have seen a lot. But where do you think things changed for WordPress? What was the big change? Was it at some point, from your perspective anyway, like, did you see something shift in the customer of WordPress? Like back in the day, people were just, what's this WordPress thing? I don't know what it is. Just give it to me, sell it to me. Did you find over time people got more warm to WordPress, mature to WordPress? They wanted WordPress. Did themes and plugins change the landscape? Like where was the shift in your career where you said, you know what, WordPress isn't like what it used to be, which was, I got to unpack this thing and figure it out. Like, when did that shift for you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's funny because you think about even, what year would that have been? 2003, maybe roughly 2002, somewhere around that timeline when WordPress really kind of became a blogging platform. And obviously, like, mom blogs, so to say, as they were once called, really kind of led people down the path of choosing it as a great way to put out content, right? A great way to blog about whatever they were doing in their lives. And at that point, there may have been plugins entering the ecosystem and being in the repo at an earlier stage. But I do think that a big part of where it graduated to the next level and evolved was when you started to see, real plugin companies, I mean, Rocket Genius and Gravity Forms included, start entering in that space, right? Where plugins became a thing that really helped people run a business on WordPress, not just be a blogging platform. as it once was. I think that at that point you started to see, oh, okay, I can use this to build a website for, a garage door company. I can build this website and run a e-commerce site off of WordPress. And I think that really opened the doors for a lot of people when they were looking for a solution, that wasn't a closed platform, that was open source, that was, much easier and more affordable to build on. And I think that continued from that trajectory, to be honest. I mean, as an agency owner, it not only became our de facto solution because of our familiarity with building and designing for WordPress, but also because it had so much flexibility and we could build, exactly what somebody wanted, in a platform that didn't cost them a lot per year to run. Right. And that was, where I think it's continued to evolve into, and at this point, maybe even the de facto enterprise solution because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, now you look at the theme market and you look at how, everything in the theme space has drastically changed. And I think that fracture happened probably with the block editor in around 2018. And now it's a great platform to use, but at first it really was very difficult. I think all of us can agree on that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's in a post-COVID world. I talk to folks all the time, and they're like, "So, have you been working at home since COVID and all this stuff? And how are you doing with it?" No, I've been working at home in coffee shops for the last 20 years, more than 25 years. Well, just about 20 years. I started my agency in 2007. I want to just shift gears a little bit, talk about what it's like to work in the environment that we work in. That is technology at Gravity Forms for WordPress remotely, because I remember distinctly going to your office. I forget if it was a WordCamp or a Prestige Conf. And I had just started my agency. I was like, look, this place is awesome. Like, I have a small, where I was from, like I had a small agency. No one had agency, like an office agency. And none of my friends and colleagues and competitors had one. Where I lived, I thought I was, up market. But you guys had a killer office. Talk about the difference between like what that was like with people in a room discovering technology to where we find ourselves today, especially at Gravity Forms, as a remote based team. We do have an office in Virginia, but just your experiences of like shifting from we're unpacking this cool technology stuff all in person to now we're all dispersed throughout the world.
Yeah. It's been such a wild ride. I mean, to think that you coming from, even the early 2000s, like that was the goal, right? I want to be a designer at a cool agency, and that's the path, right? That's the career trajectory. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. To of course now being in a remote environment is, sit in my home office all day and hear my kids trample around upstairs, and that's just a different,
which is literally happening to me right now. I can hear
which
my
is literally
kids
happening right now. Exactly, yeah. And it never ends, especially during the summer. But yeah, it was different then. It was different, even when what you're talking about when you came to Minneapolis to our office space, and we built that space because we wanted to build a space that not only we wanted to be in, but we wanted our team to be excited to go to every day, right? And we wanted to like give them, the fun things that go along with having a physical office environment. And then obviously the collaborative spaces, right? Different meeting rooms and different spaces and a mezzanine with a library and just different areas for people to collaborate. And it felt, at that point, it felt like the only way to run an agency, right? It was before the Zooms of the world kind of took over meetings. And obviously we had, remote meetings because we had clients all over the world even at that point. But, it was just different. The collaboration was different. I think it looks different than it does now, right? I think a lot of those interactions in person were very special. And even like the things like playing foosball or playing a game of pool during the day, had an effect, right? It has an effect on the culture of the agency and the collaborative nature, and meeting and working with other people throughout the day, because you're like, oh yeah, I just played this. I played my coworker in a game of pool, and that was like a dynamic that you just can't capture anymore in a remote environment, right? You try to in different ways. Um, but yeah, now I feel like I've been remote for so long. It's hard to remember what those days were like, and why they were special. But I do think now, we find different ways to break down the barriers, meet with each other on a regular basis, communicate with each other, in different ways and in new ways. And the flexibility makes it the way that we work now, right? It's what everybody wants is, I want to be flexible. I want to be able to go to a doctor appointment or take my kid to a baseball game or whatever it is, and still be able to work and do my stuff. And that just makes it wonderful and lovely and amazing as a parent, especially, but even without kids, just the flexibility and the ability to do those things. But yeah, different times and different eras of agents, from agency work all the way to now Gravity Forms.
I mentioned at the top of the show, we had just recorded a webinar about our new project here at Gravity Forms, excuse me, and it's called labs.gravity.com. And, speaking of like bringing the team together and camaraderie and doing all this stuff, in a remote way, Labs is a bit of an exercise of team culture, right? I mean, we're going to talk about AI in a little bit, but of course, AI has put WordPress and our tech industry, many industries, under a microscope about like what's going to happen with AI and how does that affect our jobs, our product, our customers, everything. And Labs allows us to leverage a little bit of that stuff, AI, and allows the team, folks like you and me on the marketing side who don't normally, introduce things into product, let alone like build experiments or, scaffold MVPs to show off the product team. Now we can do that. And it's sort of being birthed through the Labs website, labs.gravity.com. Talk about that. It was one of your ideas that you brought up to the team. Well, I guess not just your idea, but a group of you had the idea and introduced it to the team, I think probably like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. I can't remember. Time is fleeting,
Yeah.
but walk us through that, when that started and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, I think you're probably pretty close to accurate. I want to say it was maybe 6 to 9 months ago, right? We had talked about just ways that, a mature product can move faster, just different ways that a mature product can move faster, right? And I think, Gravity Forms just turned 17. And, the honest truth is, I think, and I think a lot of people probably think it in general with software that's been around as long as Gravity Forms, that, 17-year-old, 20-year-old software companies don't usually ship experimental sandboxes. I think it's we see it here and there. Obviously, we got the idea because of looking at some, people like Google and Atlassian and things like that doing some of those things, but it doesn't happen that often. And I hadn't really seen it much in the WordPress space, right? But I think it says something about where we're going. I think it says something about where we're going in the tech space. And I think it says something about where we're going as a company here at Rocket Genius with Gravity Forms and the rest of what we're building with a future product suite in general, right? It says that we aren't just sitting idly by while a lot of things ship and happen, right? We want to move a little bit like a startup again. We want to be able to not only have those things that are shipped in core on a regular basis and a regular cadence, and those integrations that everybody looks for and needs when they're using Gravity Forms, but we also want to be able to ship things at a faster clip and an experimental mode so that we can see what resonates with our customers, we can get active feedback, and that they can really see that we're trying different things and we're here to understand what resonates with them, why, and how we can do more of it. right? And Labs was really birthed out of those ideas, right? How do we, with the evolution of course the text space, and of course WordPress, and of course AI, take those ideas and figure out how to do more with them, right? We don't want those ideas to die in someone's head or die in Slack, for lack of a better way to say it, right? We want those ideas to become real. And I think now more than ever, an idea can become real, especially in WordPress, and especially the way that we've architected the solutions around Labs, right? It's not just, um, you know, someone one-shotting, as they say, a plugin, right? Yes, some of it is AI driven or assisted, but we start with frameworks for people, right? We start with code bases, we start with an add-on framework, we start with things that make sense in our world and can be tested and QA'd by the individual that's working on it, and then properly tested and security scanned at the end, right? Before we put anything out into the world. So um, it's faster access to real ideas and tools that we think our customers need. And I think when the idea was talked about, that was the goal. And we executed on it in a pretty quick fashion to just open up contribution at the company and with the team.
Yeah, I think obviously it's opening up new ideas, and it's quite an experiment. Like, we label these as experimental add-ons, right? And this whole thing is an experiment for us as well, right? How we communicate this to customers, how customers give us feedback, hopefully, if at all, on the add-ons and the snippets that we put out. And we're trying to build that sort of feedback loop to see and talk to people like, what do you think about this idea? Remember, it's just an idea or an experiment. Try it out. If you think that there's something here, tell us what you're looking for, and maybe this matures into the core product. Like, we haven't figured that part out yet, because we are just in the early days of the lab. So we're constantly experimenting with the experiments going out, which is really cool. But it's also fun to see, like, the different ideas that can come to the table now. So, for instance, like, my more like utility / marketing brain goes, wouldn't it be great to have migrators from Contact Form 7, which has been frozen in terms of development lifecycle, and some of our competitors like WP Forms, to bring those forms into your Gravity Forms site. Like, as somebody who talks to a lot of people in the WordPress space and customers and sees a lot of stuff on social, I go, I need to build these tools. I see people asking about these tools. I can go build these tools. Somebody like Melissa from our marketing team, who spends a lot of time in design and a lot of the graphics and visuals that you see from the Gravity Forms brand, she came up with what I think is a killer idea for like an overflow list when people are registering for whatever it is that you have on your Gravity Form, whether it's an event or registering for a space or a ticket or something like that. And it builds an overflow list so you can see it in the back end. Talk to us about your add-ons that you built and why those ideas popped into your head. No pun intended.
It's even awesome to hear you talk about them, right? Because I do think that, like, some of the best ideas don't necessarily have to come from a product manager, even, or a developer and engineer, right? Not that those ideas don't happen, but I think they come from people that are everywhere at the company, right? And I think Labs is giving us a path to those ideas becoming real and making their way to real users, which is awesome to hear about. I built a number of things just because, obviously I have a development background. I have a lot of experience building in WordPress, but it's not my daily to do anymore, right? It's other things. It's managing, it's working through design and branding. It's working through partnerships, and lots of other stuff that happens, right? But I wanted to be able to take some of the ideas that have been in my head for a while and just try building them, right? Pop-ups is something that I know, we've had solutions in our ecosystem for a while. We've used pop-ups ourselves on our own domains for quite some time. And I wanted to take what we had used on gravityforms.com and gravityflow.io and just actually build a solution that is literally an add-on instead of hard coded or custom coded, which is what those solutions were in the past, because we had a need for having our customers sign up to a list in a pop-up modal. And I was like, all right, let's build this as an actual add-on for Gravity Forms. Just make it an add-on versus something that was hard-coded. So pop-ups is something that I had in my head for a long time. And honestly, we had used for such a long time. I was like, all right, let's take what we've used and apply it elsewhere as an add-on. Version control is another one. Versioning is what we named it. But I've always thought version control for Gravity Forms sounded like something I would want as someone that breaks stuff, right? Regularly. We test things, we change things, we add new fields, we delete fields, we change of entire form. We're like, oh, you know what? Didn't work. Now I have to go through and manually do all of the deleting, revising, etc. myself. But versioning was a way for us to say, okay, well, instead of doing that, let's use a way for those customers to roll back. And I think it's great. I think honestly, those types of things from a feature standpoint are cool to test in the environment, put it out there and see if people want to use them. So those are two that I recently built that I'm pretty excited about.
Let's just, as we sort of wrap up, I want to talk a little bit of the icing on the cake, which is your AI development stack, how you've been developing Gravity Forms add-ons with AI.
Yeah.
And I do want to mention everything that we've just talked about, these experimental add-ons, how you can contribute as a customer, as an agency, as a freelance developer. If you're using Gravity Forms, go to labs.gravity.com. Available to, you can view it, but you can download the add-ons and the snippets as a customer. Just log in to your account and you can access the download links to all of those experiments. Give us your feedback, partake in the online forum that we have as well, which is well suited for the stuff that we're doing with Labs. We're moving to a position with Gravity Forms that is going to leverage the Abilities API and connecting up your WordPress site via MCP and a bunch of other tooling. We don't have Sam here. That's in the recording of the webinar, which will be posted online soon. And customers will be able to start to experiment with this stuff later on, hopefully in the month or into the fall, to start experimenting with the MCP stuff. But what's your flavor of AI? Like when you sit down and you're like, I want to build a Gravity Forms add-on or mark up a template page or something like that. If you do that, what are you using on the AI side to assist you in those areas?
Yeah, what I've found the best luck with myself, just because I'm used to working in an IDE, has been Cursor. It still has the ability to set up a project, the ability to view the code, the ability to edit the code, just like you would in a standard IDE, and also the ability to interface with something like Claude or ChatGPT, depending on the model that you want to use. I have found that works really well for me. I like the idea of it being familiar. I like the idea of setting up a project and still being able to see the code and still being able to edit things myself when I want to and when I need to. And usually when I'm prompting in Cursor, I have found the best luck with Opus and using Claude under the hood. I know a lot of the models are feeling fairly similar. At least the higher end models are feeling fairly similar nowadays in performance. But I feel like that was when it clicked for me. It was like, okay, the power that I can harness via this model feels more closely aligned with what I want versus some of the other stuff. So that's my current stack. And then, most of what I'm setting up is local dev environments via local. And I actually just have Cursor symlink my project files directly into whatever I'm doing. So I can make live changes and have those live changes just on the local host environment right away. And just makes it really quick to go through that QA and dev process.
I'm curious, for somebody who focuses much more on like the UI and UX of things, the front end design and stuff, not to take away from your developer back end skills, but as somebody who has more of a design focused mindset, are you using anything successfully in the AI stack for front end design? Because I mean, I'm certainly not a designer, and I don't like. I'm very hard on myself and like the stuff that I put out, even like the add-ons. Like I'm very particular on how I lay out my options pages. So I'm very like keen to focus on stuff like that. But man, I'm using Claude Design, and I'm like, this doesn't look good still. Like, where are you finding success, if at all, in design?
Yeah. A little hit or miss, to be honest. It has been a struggle depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. I have found that there are ways to, at least in my workflow, mock something up in Figma, and actually take a Figma export or even a static image export of a mock-up and be able to drop that into Cursor and have the output do a pretty good job of matching. I've still done a decent amount of manual updates with CSS and things like that, even fine tuning things. So that workflow has worked decently well. Outside of building things for WordPress, I've had luck also providing full, even outside of Claude Design, full design system files, right? Like if it's a brand system or a design system, giving it the entire package, right? Here's a logo SVG, here's the color palette, and here's a design UI sample that I want to accomplish. That has worked pretty well. But not to hint too far in advance, but we actually are building a gravity design system for both our internal team, but also the greater ecosystem and public in general to eventually use and consume via some NPM packages and skill files that'll be hopefully released in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, like subscribe to our newsletter if you're not. Stay in the loop. Ask us about it. We're super excited about it. It's basically taking our components, and we've built these components for years, and we're going to be able to allow both our internal team as well as, like I said, the wider public to be able to consume and use those components in things that they're building. Whether it's WordPress, whether it's not, you can still use our components. So many years of work has been going into those design components. So it'll be fun to be able to share that too. So stay tuned on that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic effort. It's something that I would definitely want to use, not only because I have to, but because if I'm developing stuff, it just makes life a whole heck of a lot easier. And having that design language sort of baked into the process is going to be a huge advantage. And I think, one of the things that I'm really excited about too with the Labs project, and we talked about this in the webinar, is being able to open up the Labs eventually to like one of the greatest advantages of Gravity Forms is the ecosystem that we have: certified developers, third-party developers, community developers, people that are just posting stuff on like the WordPress repo or random GitHub accounts, like getting folks that develop on top of Gravity Forms because they trust the platform that we've built, number one, and they get to sort of get access to the Gravity pool, the biggest form public pool there is. It's gross, but come on in, people. The water's great.
Come into the
public pool. They can all take advantage of that stuff. So I'm excited to see that start to develop over the months, because that'll allow me as a content creator and somebody who's in the WordPress community connect with others and say, hey, like build your experimental stuff here, or bring your sort of your add-ons here, and we can help promote them for you. So that's going to be an exciting thing. Labs.gravity.com. That's what we talked about today. Of course, we talked about Travis and his journey through WordPress into Rocket Genius, and then MCP stuff coming to Gravity Forms. Keep your eyes, ears, and fingertips peeled. No, just your eyes and your ears peeled to the stuff that's coming for all of this stuff. Gravity.com, gravityforms.com, Breakdown Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you're listening to this, there'll be a subscribe link or a follow link. Go ahead and hit follow. If you've got somebody in your life who uses Gravity Forms or WordPress, this is a great podcast to introduce them to. Share it with them. Let them know to listen. Travis, I usually ask folks where to go to say thanks, but I think we've mentioned all the URLs, unless you've got some other place you want people to go.
That's where you got to go. And
Awesome.
definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed. Keep an eye on what we're doing. You know, Labs is a great idea, and it's just the beginning of shipping a lot more stuff. So we're going to ship more. We're going to ship faster. You're going to see more from the Gravity Forms team over the next few months. We're excited about it. Thanks for having me.